We're jumping straight into a paper today called Seeing Fast and Slow, Learning the Flow of Time in Videos by researchers from Cornell, National Taiwan University, and the University of Washington.
Yeah, it's a completely brilliant piece of research.
It really is. And if you are an AI researcher or, an ML engineer tuning into AI paper podcast today, here is the 1-minute summary of the entire breakthrough before we do our deep dive.
Right, the short version.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So modern vision language models and video generators, they are essentially time blind.
Completely.
Because they're trained almost exclusively on standard, like 24 to 60 frames per second video. They learn the spatial pixels, but they don't learn the actual physics of time. So this paper introduces a genius way to teach models that flow of time without needing massive manual human labeling.
Which is usually the bottleneck, yeah.
Right. First, they use time frequency scaling, basically using the pitch shift in an audio track as a self-supervised signal to detect speed changes.
Like a built-in lip.
Exactly. And second, they introduce a mathematical equivariance constraint, basically temporal resampling. Using those two signals, they scraped the internet and built SloMo-44K.
The largest slow-motion data set ever created.
Yeah, it's huge. And they used it to achieve absolute state-of-the-art temporal super-resolution and speed-conditioned video generation. They basically taught a neural network the physics of time, not just spatial geometry.
Yeah, and that is a massive paradigm shift because this establishes time as a manipulable perceptual dimension in video learning, not just a sequence of images.
Right. Okay, let's unpack this. It's like trying to teach an autonomous car to understand the concept of acceleration when its training data only consists of cars driving exactly 30 miles per hour on a completely flat road.
That's a great way to put it. It just wouldn't know what to do if you asked it to speed up.
Right. It has the spatial geometry down. It knows what a concrete barrier looks like, but it has zero concept of how fast it's approaching the barrier.
Yeah, and we see this exact failure mode in modern models today.
Oh, absolutely. If you've ever tried to force, like a diffusion model, to render slow motion just by tweaking the text prompt,
it's a mess.
it's awful. It either ignores your instruction completely or you get these stuttering artifacts. Even Gemini 2.5, right?
Yeah.
If you ask it to predict playback speed, it just straight up hallucinates.
Because it's relying on semantic heuristics. It sees a turtle in the video and just guesses slow, right? It's not calculating the actual optical flow.
Yeah, exactly.
And what's fascinating here is that the models are currently just memorizing visual states. They are not understanding the physics of how events actually unfold.
Because the training distribution is just one monolithic block of standard frame rate data.
Right. You cannot infer times variability from a single static speed. If it only sees a water drop splashing at 30 FPS, it learns the RGB values of the splash, sure, but it doesn't learn the Newtonian mechanics of fluid displacement over variable time.
So to fix that, you obviously need diverse temporal data. Millions of hours of slow motion, high speed, the works.
Which you can't manually label.
Right, because human perception of frame rates is notoriously terrible anyway. Try guessing if a video is sped up by 1.2x or 1.5x.
Yeah, you can't.
You can't. So they had to trick the data into labeling itself.
And
they used time frequency scaling.
Yeah, the audio pitch shifts.
Exactly. When you speed the video, the audio pitch goes up. They basically trained a model to look at the metal spectrograms of the audio track and find those pitch shifts.
It's a completely free cross-modal supervisory signal.
Wait, but what if a video has no audio track? Or it's just some overlaid EDM background music on a rollerblading clip?
Yeah.
How does the model not get confused by artificial audio? Because TikTok and YouTube are full of that.
That's the immediate concern, right? The disconnect would totally corrupt the training.
Yeah.
But the researchers used a contrastive learning approach to filter the data. If the transient peaks in that EDM track don't mathematically correlate with the continuous optical flow of the visual stream.
Oh, they just throw it out.
Exactly. The video is discarded automatically. They only use the perfectly correlated clips. But the real kicker is that the audio is only used to train the visual speed change detector.
Wait, really? Just for training?
Just for training. Once it's trained, the model infers the lapse of time directly from visual dynamics alone. So like the optical flow of the rollerblader, it doesn't need the audio at inference time at all.
Oh, wow. That is incredibly smart. It just learns the visual signature of acceleration.
Exactly.
Okay, but detecting that a speed change happened is only half the battle, right? Knowing a video sped up doesn't tell you by how much.
Right. You need the absolute magnitude.
Yeah, and this is the second self-supervised insight. The math of time, or equivariance under temporal resampling.
It's mathematically very elegant.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's like calibrating a scale by knowing that if you put twice as many apples on it, the needle has to move exactly twice as far, even if you don't know the absolute weight of a single apple.
That is a perfect analogy. Because if you take a video tensor and you artificially speed it up by downsampling it by a factor of, say, k,
Right.
the model's predicted speed output must scale proportionally by that exact same factor k.
So if you speed it up by 3x, the output prediction has to be exactly 3x higher than whatever the baseline prediction was.
Exactly. By enforcing that proportional relationship as a loss function, it bypasses the need for absolute ground truth labels completely. It forces the model to learn relative temporal physics in its latent space.
So they have this functioning, label-free speed detector, and they just set it loose on the internet.
Yep, they pointed it at raw internet video to automatically annotate clips.
And that's how they built the SloMo-44K dataset.
Yeah.
But they specifically targeted 1,000+ frames per second high-speed camera footage.
Right, footage that had been rendered back down to standard frame rates.
Which makes me wonder, when we look at standard video, our brains naturally fill in the motion blur. What does a model actually see differently in 1,000 FPS footage compared to standard footage?
Well, motion blur in standard 30 FPS video is essentially poison to a neural network's spatial geometry.
Poison? Really?
Yeah, because the camera shutter is open long enough that a fast-moving object, like a splashing drop of water or a bird's wing, just smears across the pixels.
Oh, I see.
To a transformer architecture, that blur destroys the boundaries. But high-speed footage, true slow motion, acts as a magnifying glass for physical interactions.
Because the shutter speed is so fast.
Exactly. The motion blur is vastly reduced. It shows the network how real-world dynamics actually unfold millisecond to millisecond. It's a high-fidelity physical prior.
Okay, so they have this ultimate data set. The next step is playing God with time, right?
Yeah.
They fine-tuned existing generative architectures.
They tackled two massive downstream tasks: speed-conditioned video generation and temporal super-resolution.
Let's talk about the generation first. They used a 2.1 backbone, I think.
Yeah.
And they prompted it to generate a person feeding a pigeon by a pond.
Right, but they prompted for normal speed, slow, and ultra-slow.
And the optical flowcharts on this were crazy. With the baseline models like WAN or ATI, they fail completely. They can't differentiate between slow and ultra-slow.
They output the exact same pixel displacement regardless of the prompt.
Right. But this new model, because it actually learned the math, it changes the optical flow magnitude appropriately. The ultra-slow pigeon wings actually move with the precise reduced displacement you'd expect from a high-speed camera.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, it explains why the temporal super-resolution task works so well too.
Oh, right. Converting low FPS blurry videos into high FPS clear sequences.
Mm-hmm. They did a test where they fed the models a 15 FPS video of two people throwing popcorn in the air.
Yeah, the popcorn test. If you train on standard videos with artificial slowdowns, you just get these awful stuttering artifacts. So like the model is just copying and pasting the same frame or just smearing them together.
Exactly. Baselines like film or LDM-VFI, they produce these overblurred ghost-like trajectories because they're just linearly blending the pixels between frame A and frame B.
But popcorn doesn't fall linearly.
Exactly. It moves non-linearly due to gravity and velocity. Because this new model was trained on genuine high FPS data, it actually interpolates the nonlinear complex physics. The popcorn kernels are sharp and coherent.
It actually learned the parabolic arc.
Yes.
Which is just, it's wild. And the benchmarks back this up entirely. I mean, on speed change detection, this model hits 92.4% accuracy.
Crushing the baselines.
Completely.
Yeah.
Gemini 2.5 was at what, 59.5%?
Yeah, barely better than a coin flip. And a dedicated flow-based baseline only hit 80.4%.
And on the temporal super-resolution, it had an 80.3% human preference win rate. But honestly, the numbers are cool, but I have to talk about the X-Men test because this just blew my mind.
Oh, the Quicksilver scene.
Yes. Okay, so for the deepfake and video forensics geeks out there, they fed the model the iconic X-Men scene where time freezes, right? The Quicksilver is moving at normal speed, but the environment is in ultra-slow motion.
Right, and then time rapidly accelerates back to normal. And the model perfectly located the exact millisecond where time accelerates. It tracked the transition from the sharp slow-mo frames to the blurry normal speed frames flawlessly.
Yeah, and this raises an important question about how we evaluate generative content moving forward, because video forensics absolutely needs this.
Oh, 100%.
As AI video generators get better at spatial rendering, perfect lighting, perfect skin
Your
textures.
traditional visual artifacts are just going to vanish.
Exactly. So detecting unnatural temporal flow might be the only reliable way to spot a fake. If the acceleration of an object across 20 frames violates the learned physics prior, you flag it.
Wow. It turns time into a cryptographic signature. But to be fair, the authors are really transparent about the limitations, too.
Right. It's not perfect yet.
Like if a human deliberately moves slowly, acting in slow motion, the model struggles.
Yeah, it interprets the slow optical flow as a manipulated frame rate, not a real-time slow action.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And it also struggles if there are limited motion cues,
Yeah.
like a static surveillance shot. Plus, it still relies heavily on that pre-trained WAN backbone.
Yeah, the temporal control is basically grafted onto a model optimized for spatial rendering. So there's room to build this natively into diffusion from the ground up.
So what does this all mean for the people listening? I mean, for me, just the joy of reading this paper using audio pitch and latent space math to teach a neural net the concept of time. It's just brilliant self-supervised design.
It really is. And I'll leave you with this final thought.
Right.
Right now, the whole industry is obsessed with building world models.
Oh, yeah. Huge buzzword.
But they focus almost entirely on 3D spatial geometry, giving models a sense of depth, object permanence, space. But true physical world models require a mastery of the fourth dimension.
Time.
Exactly. If a model can perfectly control the flow of time in its generated output, it hasn't just learned to make a video. It has fundamentally modeled the laws of physics.
The fourth dimension is finally coming into focus. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive for AI paper podcasts. We definitely recommend pulling up the paper, Seeing Fast and Slow, and thinking about how temporal scaling might apply to your own ML pipelines. Get you next time.